Southampton, the settlement of the ancient Romans. Hamwick, a victim of Viking raids. Southampton, a victim of the Norman conquest. Southampton, the target of French raiders. From the Romans to the Luftwaffe, these walls and ruins are full of the life of the city. Welcome to Southampton, a history. Southampton may have gotten its name from the Saxon settlement on a site nearby known as Hamwick or Hampton. Later on in time, the town became known as Southampton, which phonetically are alike to the current name Southampton. The Roman period. The early Roman and Anglo-Saxon settlements of this area would have been fortified with ditches and the natural curve of the riverbank. Sadly, no evidence remains of these settlements that we can visit. Behind me across the river, we can see Bitten Manor. In the 8th century, the Roman Empire fell and lost a great deal of its grip over the western countries of Europe. This included Britain and therefore the site formerly known as Southampton, a Roman town. This prompted the Anglo-Saxons in the area to build a settlement called Hamwick, which is a town fortified by walls known as a burg. (1066) William the Conqueror won a decisive battle against the British in the Battle of Hastings, which led to the Norman conquest of Britain. The Normans knew they would need defenses to defend against invasions, and thus Southampton Castle was built. Southampton Castle was built on a wooden Motte and Bailey castle when it was originally built and had largely been converted to stone by the time of the 12th century. The castle was a key building in the growing wine trade of Southampton. During the 12th century, it was valued as a key part of the coastal defense within Britain. As you can see behind me, the small section is all that is left of the castle. Due to growing prosperity of Southampton and the wine trade, Southampton soon found itself in need of defensives after threats of conflicts with the French. In 1338, the French started a naval campaign which would see to attacking of many English towns towards the south of the country. Southampton, as well as Portsmouth, located 20 or so miles southeast, would fall victim to such attacks. In this attack, over 40 ships were gathered by the enemy forces and caught 5 powerful British ships off by surprise and overwhelmed the British forces. The crew of these ships were executed, and the invading force added these ships to their fleet before heading to invade Southampton. Thousands of French and Italian soldiers assaulted the city on the ground and from the sea, causing widespread panic with both citizens and the local militia fleeing from the city. Some defenders of the town stayed to try and defend until the town walls, which were crumbling as orders to repair and renovate the walls had been ignored, were breached by Italian soldiers, and the city was razed to the ground with Portsmouth suffering similar casualties. An extract from the book Medieval Southampton by the author Colin Platt describing this raid goes on to say, meeting little resistance, they slew many burgesses, violated their womenfolk, and made off with considerable plunder on the next tide. The king took the ease of the assault on this key southern town as an insult to the crown. However, his rage was increased further by the wool trade being hampered by the raiders burning some of the wool and men in town making off with what remained of the wool in the aftermath of the attack. In the aftermath of these attacks, King Edward III ordered improvements to be made to the defense of Southampton, and thus, in the mid-1360s, Southampton was enclosed in a 2.5-mile wall with 28 defensive towers and 8 gates for people to exit and enter the city walls. After the attack, the king also ordered new seals to recognize deaths in Southampton, as the raiders had carried off with the old ones, which would mean the raiders could potentially use said seals themselves. This building behind me would have been considered the northern entrance to this walled town. Historical records dating to the 15th century show one purpose of the Bargate as a prison which held Genoese members of the town after an attack on a trading exhibition. The upper floor of the building was used as a guildhall for several years until the 18th century, where at that point the town had started expanding north of the boundaries of the former town walls. In 1836, the Bargate was once again used as a prison by Southampton police force, and a criminal court was founded inside and served that purpose until 1933. This vault was named the Kilter's Vault after the former public house, which would formerly have stood above it. This vault, like several other vaults in the city which aren't visible from street level, would have probably been used to store wine. This is the Watergate. Back when the walls were completely a fortified town, this tower would have formed the southern entrance to the town. A crane was built here by a wealthy man in town in order to assist with the loading and unloading of boats coming into the city from the south. Southampton has a long and incredible history spanning thousands of years. From the Romans to the Luftwaffe, these walls and ruins are full of the life of the city.
This has been Southampton.